Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. What I am sure is going to be one of the more interesting and impactful presentations we've had here with a leader in AI. It doesn't require much introduction. I'm sure anyone who knows AI definitely knows Jean-Francois. But with the fact that we have about 275 registrants on this, it's definitely suggesting a great demand for what you have to say. So Jean-Francois, great to have you on the call.
Pleasure.
There are people who might not know who you are. He's a veteran in the AI entrepreneur and industry, and he's outspoken advocate of the safe development of AI. Of course, he's the CEO and founder of Element AI with a few partners. What's interesting is he's got quite a diverse background. He's held leadership roles, C-level roles in both product and innovation, and talks about being a force for good. He's very involved in guiding AI's impact on business, people, and society. A child of two entrepreneurs, started working at 13 for them. Definitely showed that Jean-Francois had that entrepreneurial spirit, and he's brought that into not just the great AI companies building, but also his love of experimentation, his love of leadership. He's got a quote here of, "Leadership consists of being able to communicate clearly and rally people around a common goal, bringing out the best in them, but providing the resources they need to reach their goals. It's the ability to paint a vision and have a group of people embrace it." So I'm really excited to see someone who's not only knowledgeable about AI and what it can do, but also about its impact on society. COVID, of course, for his talk today, and of course, just how he's leading AI into 2021. Jean-Francois, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop talking and let everyone listen to who actually wants to be listened to. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll be connecting questions through the session.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stuart. It's great to be here. Glad to be able to share some of our thoughts and the project that we've started to work on, given this situation that is impacting all of us. I'll start by, I'll just share I have a small presentation so you guys can follow. There's some interesting concept I'd like to be able to share with you. So quickly, I mean, for any one of you who have not heard about us, as an organization, yes, we do artificial intelligence, but really our take on it is to maximize human-machine collaboration. There's just so much we can get out of pure algorithms or systems. If they don't connect with people, people don't understand them. If there's not that interaction so that users can trust whatever comes out of these systems, that output, it's going to be really hard to actually drive impact. So everything we do, all the technology we develop, the research we conduct, either on human-machine interaction, but also on the technology side, is geared towards that philosophy. And what we've done with Knowledge Scout, which is one of our products, really embody a lot of these values and a lot of these principles. So Element AI, we're a 3.5 years old organization. We've got offices in Toronto and Montreal. We're about 350 people, and we operate globally. So you see some of the logos of our customers. We've worked with over now I think it's 150 different organizations around the world. We got a presence in Asia, mostly out of Singapore and Seoul, but also we operate in Europe, mostly based out of London. So Knowledge Scout, this is the heart of what I want to share. And some of the interesting things that we've been doing. So quickly here on what this is about and what that product is about, and then I'll share how is this applied to the COVID situation and how we've figured out ways to help and engage with the community that is right now being most impacted by the pandemic, and are trying to actually find a solution to respond to it. So this system's designed not as a pure knowledge management system, but really has a decision support system. And I think I'd like to highlight the nuance here, where this is not a search tool as much as you can find information by using it. The overall design and the way this is architected is really to support decision making. So you can actually ask question, describe situation, and then interact with the answers that the system's going to find for you, and then from there drill down and do root cause analysis, figure out piece of information that is relevant, and then iterate through body of knowledge in order to find the right signals that can help you make a decision or formulate an hypothesis in order for you to solve a situation. So we're applying this across multiple industry and across multiple use cases. We saw the emerging situation with COVID becoming quite of a problem, and mostly with the public release of a database called CORD, which has been sponsored by a few groups. So the Zuckerberg Foundation, I think the White House was part of this, and a few other organizations. What we figured it was that interfacing with thousands of article and pieces of information that is fully unstructured was going to be hard for people who are in the field, either people who are doing clinical research or trying to find how can we mitigate the situation for each patient, people who are doing drug research, vaccine research, eventually people who will be conducting clinical trials, people who are in the public domain and have to figure out what are the right regulations. Should we open up, close? What is the impact of that? That initial database was constituted of a lot of scientific, trustworthy article about lots of these topics. And actually, the body of knowledge expands to all coronaviruses research done, even with a prior situation to COVID-19. And then what we figured is that, it's great if you're a data scientist, you can create script algorithms and hack your way into finding information. But the point is that the people who are making decisions right now don't have time to share their needs and figure out exactly what algorithm could help them. They don't code, they're busy, and then still they need to make sense of what's happening and make sense of the new information that is bubbling up every week. So we structured a team. It was a small team of 5 people, and then they worked almost nonstop and slept just a little bit for 6 days, and basically configured the system on that initial body of knowledge. We released that relatively quickly and started to basically gather feedback from everybody who was connecting and starting to use it. And since then, we've been improving the number of features and started to connect more and more databases behind it, and connect the dots between that unstructured body of knowledge, so all the articles, with structured data that is coming from other sources now. So I'll be coming to that a bit later. So what this is composed of, and by the way, you're free to go to our website. You'll see there's a link at the top that talks about the different things we do and contribution we have to projects around COVID. And then one of them being the Knowledge Scout implementation. And then you can follow the link there, and then you can get access to the platform. This is available for free. There's thousands of people who have been trying it, and so far the statistics are pretty staggering. A lot of people are coming back and are actually using it. The stats from last week was that about 25% of people who visited it have been coming back and using it again. So people in the field that are looking for that highly specialized information find it quite relevant. So the principle is, you start with a text box. You get a easy, intuitive user interaction. You can write your query, write a question, and then the system will provide you an answer. So we can deploy tons of models. Obviously, this is a small implementation of what the product's capable of doing. In a context of being able to react quickly, we didn't deploy all of the different models that we can usually deploy in other situations. So we've mostly deployed the structured queries and the semantic models, and I'll come back to what can that do and what this means. So from there, you can describe a situation, write a question that you have about the COVID-19, and then the system will go and then interact with all the information that is available. We'll gather the information and then construct an answer and then present you with the results. The good thing here is that there's a lot of embedded feedback loop. So not only the system will explain what it understands from the intent that you write, part of your description. So it will explain what it understood from it. But also based on your interaction, we capture what was relevant, what did you spend more time reading on, and what seemed to be your next search, etc. And then from there, we can start to extract from experts also what are the most relevant piece of information, and we can then rank them better for follow-on users. The area where this has a lot of impact, again, I've talked about it, but it's really to support people in their journey into finding insights and then making sense of a body of knowledge, more than it is to find a piece of information. It's really to help them extract the understanding of what is the knowledge part of unstructured data, and then connect the dots across multiple databases and be able to extract these insights and then make use of them. So structured and unstructured data, I've talked about that. You see here the two models that were deployed here. From the data that is extracted, we extract all the semantic understanding out of the content, and then create from there a knowledge graph that you can then interact with, and then the system can generate answers based on the context and the type of question that you've sent to it. So just getting one level of detail further down, you can see here an example of a question that maybe someone who's doing drug research or clinical researcher could ask. So how many adverse event involving chloroquine occur in male patient in the US sorted by reaction. And then you can see here how the model will be understanding the intent out of this, and then extracting the different topics, and then from there being able to extract and then rank based on the body of knowledge that is there, the information that you're going to find there, and say, hey, like this is how many times. So we've seen rash, retinal pigment, epitheliopathy. Sorry, I'm not an expert. etc. So for them, it's really interesting to be able to query that information from different perspectives. It's one thing to have the unstructured data content. It's another one to be able to query and have some structure to it, and then basically navigate between one and another. So coming to the semantic search, the the overall language model here are trained broadly about knowledge of the world, but more specifically knowledge of the pharmaceutical industry and the medical and clinical industry. And then from there, it has understood the overall construct of the semantic. The point here is we're specialized these language models to be able to understand that specific body of knowledge. So, when you're asking question and when you're navigating a document, we can on the fly generate a summary, for instance, of that document, so you don't have to read it all. You can ask a more specific question and find in that document where's the answer to that question. And then also, if you pick, let's say, a paragraph or a description of a case or a patient, you can find what's the most similar description of a related situation in the body of knowledge. And that's really where you're going to find quite a difference compared to traditional search engine, where you essentially need to know what you're looking for in order to hit the index the right way, and then essentially find what you're looking for at the end. So you need to have a much better understanding of how the database is constructed and what the body of knowledge is composed of. Where using these kinds of models, the more you describe the situation, the more accurate the answer is going to be. And that's really where this is quite of an advantage for experts. They don't need to try to, encode what they're actually looking for in their question and hope that the index is actually related to the way they're going to describe this. They can have more general, long descriptions, and the more they're going to give us, the better we're going to be able to essentially zoom into what is related to that description, and therefore potentially provide them with pieces of information that is going to make sense. So that's a big difference when you compare it. You're going to go to either Google Scholar or other types of system, and then you're going to face that kind of limitation. So this is one of the advantages that you get out of using the tool in this context. So we've been in contact with a lot of these users. So clinical researcher, drug research, vaccine, some pharmas, people in the government, and other people in hospitals, and they've been great at providing feedback, and more how this is turning into. So we've been releasing some features last week and this week again on the public version, but also what we're realizing is that they do have some private databases that have some very interesting information. And now what we're looking at is connecting the general body of knowledge that we've created with their more specific body of knowledge, so they can go faster and making sense of whatever they're working on. So this is turning into something that is quite interesting and very dynamic. And we hope that we're going to be able to move the needle. Goal here, again, like, we don't pretend we're going to be fixing the situation with that tool. The point here is, hey, can we save a few hours a week of very, very critical people that the world has a finite amount of, and by saving a few hours every week for each people, eventually saving a day, saving some weeks, and essentially having a better response, better decision making, and making a difference there. So I've mentioned the key use cases and the kind of impact that you see there. What I'd like to do is just to pivot and go quickly into the application and just show a little bit examples of how this works. So at the bottom here, you can essentially click and you can see the different way you can interact with the system. And when I was referring to long sentences, like this is a very long paragraph, and then experts really like this because they can copy paste a description of a situation, and then with that they can find very relevant information right at the back. So here we got a long description about mass migration out of Wuhan facilitated the COVID-19 outbreak, et cetera, et cetera. So we describe this, and then from there we find relevant information out of the documents that are here. So you can see here the different topics that were recognized, and essentially you can start flagging pieces of information that are interesting to you. You can then open that document. We've put the link to the source so you can see if it's something you consider that is valid. You see the different topic that got extracted by the model, and you get a quick summary here of what is in the document. So later on, I think this week, we're releasing the ability at the top here to essentially ask a question more specifically for that document, and then it'll extract automatically the answer. So point here is you can zoom in very quickly, see what's relevant for you, and help navigate and see if something's been done, something's been found, so that you're not wasting time working on questions that have already been answered, or if they've been answered already, is it relevant? Is it meaningful? And we can get in touch with the people who've worked on these things. So there's all sorts of ways to use that body of knowledge for it to be useful. So we've been aggregating and accumulating a lot of these different questions coming from all of the users, and we're using that as a point of feedback to include more data sources and more information. Other type of query you can do here is to also, I'll just erase this, is structure queries. So we could ask, for instance, how many cases in Canada per day, and here, like, we're going to tap into this. We recognize we're not adding a description. We want to extract here a number of new cases. You see all the AI has interpret the question. It essentially got the information here and then translated that information into that graph. I could bookmark that information, creates essentially, of all the different piece of information that I'm collecting. So if I go back quickly here and just, flag other information as you're collecting information and making sense of your situation, you can flag this info and then create a case with all the information that you collected, and you can then further ask question inside and then drill down as you can narrow the scope of knowledge that you look at. So again, this is a showcase of our effort here. So far, the response has been very great by experts in the field, and then we're going to keep investing in that direction. But really hope that this gives you a good idea of what we've been working on, how this has been relevant, and how this is going to evolve. And hopefully you're curious and are going to go and try it out. So you can see we went live with some of the features here, and then we'll have some more that are going to be released. These are some of the databases that people have asked us to add. You can see here the need for open databases to support clinical trial type question, and then OpenFDA. The FDA has a huge body of knowledge of many terabytes of information about molecule, existing drugs, and existing research that has been done that we'd like to be able to cross reference with the COVID-19 databases. So that's it for the general presentation. I mean, I'm more than happy to get your question and drill into whatever direction you guys feel is relevant.
Yeah, so we have two questions, and you may be able to see it. One's from Jonathan Smith. How do you create the predefined ontology for the cord data set?
So this is a semi-supervised approach. So essentially, we define the space of potential question we'd like to answer, and then from there, collaborating with experts, and based on the database that we have, we populate an initial ontology, and then this is combined also with the topic extraction that we actually run on the body of knowledge. So out of all the content that we have out of the article, we extract all the topics, and then we cross-reference these topics with the ontology, and then from there we start to iterate, and we grow the ontology based on that. So this is one of the tricks you need to get right. Extending the ontology and structuring it the right way. And at the moment, this is something where it's still an art. So it's not yet something that we fully automated. So there's human experts. Yes, of course, we use some algorithms, but it's a combination of the two. And that's how you basically connect the dots.
Thank you very much. Great. And then last question, because we are running out of time. Which data sources are used in your aggregating, and how do you vet them?
So the data sources that I've shared, I think, last page of the presentation. But again, they're all put on the website, so you'll see what we've used. I mean, we're part of a few groups. And we only connected with data sources that we felt were correctly vetted. So the COVID-19 is a very reliable source of data. I mentioned the Zuckerberg Foundation, but there's a lot of effort being put in making sure that body of knowledge is relevant. The FDA database is a very curated, extremely well organized data source. And so on. So I think this is one of the advantage. That's why people just don't go to Google or a random search engine. That's why there's also value. It's how we've been curating and aggregating these data sources. And now that we went out there, we got users that came in and then now are asking for other data sources. So that's how we've been proceeding, is just listening to the experts. We don't pretend to be experts at all in this domain. Just, there's a tool, there's a platform, we've got some models. Just wanted to make sure that they're useful, and we're listening to users that are guiding us towards the piece of information they feel the most relevant.
Thank you very much. That's it for questions. Certainly some positive comments that you can see about the presentation. So congratulations, you're already getting some accolades. I invite everyone to stick around into the virtual rooms. There's networking rooms, poll booths. Just go into the main stage area, reception area, and you can get sent through. Jean-Francois, thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating. Can't wait to connect with you soon and talk more about all of this human-machine collaboration. I think it's a absolutely imperative time for us to leverage this, and let's make some positivity out of the negative situation we're in right now with COVID. So great mission, and really looking forward to helping you get there.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.